All right, welcome back. Welcome back. Okay, so lecture 2 on chapter 15, unemployment. Got about 6 things I want to cover here. Went ahead and put them on the board just to save us a little bit of trouble, inefficiency while I draw it. Let's start with figure 2 in the reading, and it's looking at natural rate of unemployment. Natural rate of unemployment can be graphed like so. You have the percent of the labor force on the vertical axis, so like 2%, 3%, 4%, so on up, 10%, 100%, whatever, all the way up there. And then the horizontal axis is, in this case, we're going to use years. I'm not specific here, but it can be time. So the fluctuations in the labor force utilization over time. The unemployment rate you see, it goes up and down. Okay, it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. This straight line here is what's called the natural rate of unemployment. Now, the natural rate of unemployment is defined as the normal rate of unemployment around which the unemployment rate fluctuates, which is exactly what we see on this graph here. So unemployment rate goes up and down, up and down. This natural rate is just this undercurrent of people who are always coming in and out of the jobs. Your spouse is in the Navy and gets, you're in South Carolina and you get moved to Hawaii, you're going to go with them. So you have to leave your job. So you're unemployed for a bit. You get temporarily furloughed. You get let go. Factory closes, that type of thing. Factory opens up, then you jump back in. There's just a natural rate of unemployment. People go back to school. So if there's temporarily that they're leaving their job to go back to school, and then they're back in the job market looking for a job. So there's just this natural rate of unemployment. It's basically why U-Haul exists, because people are moving all the time. So literally, natural rate of unemployment is the rate, the constant rate for which the unemployment rate fluctuates. That's generally speaking in this country somewhere between 4 and 6%, 4 to 5% is probably a good bet. That's why I said in the first video, if you say, hey, unemployment was calculated about 4.9%, that's basically natural rate of unemployment. I always get tickled when I hear like a political figure come out and say, hey, we need to get unemployment down to 0. That's not happening. There's just always, for all the reasons I just listed, there's just always going to be a natural rate of unemployment, and that's what that graph reflects. Now, one little thing I want to add here, there's something called cyclical unemployment. Cyclical unemployment is the deviation of the unemployment from its natural rate. So these little deviations that you see here, so from here to here, and from here to here, and from here to here, and from here to here, okay, those little deviations, okay, that's cyclical unemployment. All right, so those little, how much it goes up and how much it goes down is cyclical unemployment. So you hear a lot about that on the news, how it's fluctuating, and that's this little graph here, which is figure 2 in your reading, doing its little dance. Okay, so moving over to the second thing I want to hit here, it's the types of unemployment. So up here, make sure you can see that. Yep. What are the types of unemployment? Well, the first type is frictional unemployment, and I'm going to read the definition from the reading, and then I'm going to kind of, translate it into layman's terms. So, frictional unemployment is unemployment that results because it takes time for workers to search for jobs that best suit their tastes and skills. Frictional unemployment is basically it takes time to find the right job. Okay, you're going to do a job search. Why do we want to support you in a job search? Why do I want you to find the right job? Well, think about it. If you find the right job for you, now I'm saying you're not going to roll out and be like a CEO making 6 figures first time out, but it needs to be a good fit. All right, something you're comfortable doing, makes enough pay to make it reasonable, or something that you really, really enjoy. Why? Why do I want it to be something you enjoy and it's the right job? Well, quite frankly, you're going to be more productive, and it goes back to GDP. If you're more productive, and every member of society is kind of in their right job, for the most part, they're going to be really, really productive. And if they're really, really productive, we're producing more. If we're producing more, we're making more. If we're making more, we're buying more. If we're buying more, man, that economy's doing this. It's humming. It's doing its thing. That leads to even bigger and better things in terms of jobs. Companies doing well. There's room for promotions. The industry's doing well. There's room for new job opportunities. So it's all good. Frictional unemployment, it just takes time to find the right job. Structural unemployment, I'll read the definition and then kind of translate it. Structural unemployment is employment that results because of the number of jobs available in some labor markets is insufficient to provide a job for everyone who wants one. Basically, at the end of the day, the job you want might not exist yet. All right, let's see if I put the emphasis on yet. I use myself as an example. I was very, very fortunate when I came out on my, I worked for 10 years, went back, got my PhD, came back out, looking for a professorship. 5 miles down the road, landed at SMC. It was great. It was awesome. It was really meant to be. And had I had a big fancy degree and there was no openings for an economics professor, I would have been structurally unemployed. But I was fortunate that there was an opening. Now, we chose to locate in Spartanburg, which is, good college town. It's like 6 colleges there, so it's pretty good odds in my favor, and a lot of colleges in general in the upstate. So, but if I wanted to be an astrophysicist and live in Idaho, all right, there might not be a whole lot of call for astrophysicists in Idaho. I don't know. You could be structurally unemployed quite a while. So structural unemployment is basically the right job doesn't exist yet. Okay. All right. So we are through natural rate of unemployment, types of unemployment. Let's move on to number 3, which is just kind of a gaggle of things. What's a job search? It's basically you just looking for a job. Like I said, I want you to be, if you have to be frictionally unemployed to find the right job, I'm okay with that. Job search is just the process by which workers find appropriate jobs given their tastes and skills. It's very important early on that you get exposure to what you think you might want to be your career. Like a lot of people want to go into accounting and then they get some experience in accounting, like, oh man, I can't stand this. Or they want to be a banker and they can't stand being in an office. They want to be a nurse and they can't stand the sight of blood. All right, you got to figure those things out. All right, job searches are fun. It's job searches later are much more productive if you take time now to gain some experience and find out what your tastes and preferences are. So should you become unemployed with something called employment insurance? You're hearing a lot about that in the news right now. We're filming this in the spring of 2020, so we're going through the coronavirus. A lot of people hitting the unemployment insurance office. It's a government program that partially, I should say, protects workers' incomes when they become unemployed. Keyword is partial. They don't pay your whole salary. All right. Now, some of that's by design, some of it's about necessity. They couldn't pay your whole salary. If you have a bunch of people unemployed, you can't pay their whole salary, especially if they're making good money. But they give you enough to survive. Now, at the same time, when you're designing policy, we talked about this before in economics, you don't want to make people too comfortable on the government dole, because that's tax revenue and nothing's free. Okay, that's coming from us. So you got to be careful. You only want to give them partial reimbursement, enough to keep the lights on. They don't need to be having HBO, feed their families, that type of thing. But you also don't want to make it permanent. Okay, so we're talking 3 months, 6 months type window. Sometimes in economic downturns, they'll extend that a little bit, but mostly 180-day terms. But it's partial. It's not your full pay. It's partial. So it's meant to kind of incentivize you to get back out there and find another job. So society kind of has like these safety nets. All right, life's kind of like a high wire act, and they don't want you thinking the safety net's a hammock and just laying back in it. So safety net's there to catch you if you fall. All right. So we've got natural rate of employment, types of unemployment, job search and unemployment. I want to move over to a graph. This is a quick reminder. We talked about this actually in the minimum wage chapter when we talked about a binding price floor. Boom. If you set a wage, so what we got here is wage, dollars, quantity of labor. We got labor supply, which are workers now. You're a supplier of your own labor, and demanders of that labor. If for some reason, if this is the wage it should be, okay, this is the wage at equilibrium, all right? If for some reason the wage is set above market value, let's say just like federal minimum wage is $7.25, but localities can make it whatever. And let's say Spartanburg County says, you know what, it needs to be $15 an hour. You're gonna have this graph, okay? So it should be around $7.25, $8 an hour is around equilibrium, but you put up here 15. Well, guess what? More people are gonna want to work. Quantity supply is gonna move over here. Okay. Quantity demand is going to slide back to here. Okay, you're going to have more supply than you have demand. You're in disequilibrium, so we have some efficiency issues here. You have a surplus of labor. What's a surplus of labor? It's workers who want to work and can't. And if you remember from the previous lecture in this chapter, that's called unemployment. That is the width of your unemployment right there. Okay, from here to here, all unemployment. That's why you have to be very careful when you play around with market wages that are above equilibrium. You can very quickly um, get some people unemployed. All right. If you read in the chapter a little bit later, there's a little insert about the fight for 15. You want to fight for 15? Go get some skills. Okay. You want $15 for frying potatoes? Get ready to be unemployed. All right. That's just how it is. Whether the government changes that regulation, says no, we'll make it a minimum wage. Guess what? You're just going to get replaced by a robot. All right. Robots can build BMWs. They can build a Big Mac. All right. It's no big deal. All right. So keep in mind unemployment there. Basic economics there. So we're through the fourth. Let's talk very quickly about unions and collective bargaining. Now, unions are kind of a catch-22. All right, back in the day, they did a lot of good. All right, they got kids like out of factories and getting killed, and crazy worker hours, and all kinds of stuff that was going on. What is a union? It's a worker association that bargains with employers over wages, benefits, and working conditions, but they do it collectively. All right. Instead of you going in and just negotiating with your boss, which is what we do in South Carolina, it's a non-union right-to-work state, they do collective bargaining. What's collective bargaining? Is the process by which unions and firms agree on terms of employment. If they can't agree, they do something called a strike. That's an organized withdrawal of labor from a firm by a union. So basically you have the firm, which is one big unit, and a union takes all the workers and makes them one big unit. That technically makes the union a monopoly on labor. And monopoly can throw their weight around and say, hey, you know what, if you don't pay us what we want, we're going to quit. We're going to walk off. We're going to strike. So they try to get that through collective bargaining. Like I say, back in the day, unions did a lot of good. You can read about it in this chapter. Nowadays, not so much. You want to know why airline flights and everything so expensive? Okay, bar none with the coronavirus, which we currently have going on, which is hurt prices. But you know why they're so expensive? You know why the airlines are so inefficient in terms of controlling their costs? They have a union they have to deal with. They have the guys that beat the crap out of your baggage at the airport. Yeah, they have a union. The guy that takes a little rubber thing out from underneath the tire, he has a union. All right. The pilot, they have a union. All right. The flight attendant, they have a union. So these airlines have to deal with all these unions, and they just say, you know what, if you don't give us what we want, we'll just, take all the pilots out. And you can't fly anywhere. That's a problem. Actually, the United States president gets involved with pilots, or there's any kind of strike that affects the airlines in this country, because it's very, very important. Unions can kind of be bullies, all right, and they can really push up the costs, say of air travel or steel or Boeing out west. It's a big reason why there's a Boeing plant in Charleston, South Carolina now, is that it was out in Washington, and they were subject to unions out there. Now they're not so much. So it's kind of a mixed bag on unions. I'll let you read about those. Now, wow, we're already down here, okay? Let's talk about efficiency wages. What are efficiency wages? Something I really, really believe in. Efficiency wages are above equilibrium wages paid by firms voluntarily to increase worker production. So one of the biggest costs for a firm is worker turnover. People go down the street for just like $1 more an hour. Well, that firm has trained that employee, and they're really, really good at what they do. And it's really costly to replace them. And then when you bring in somebody new, they're not as productive as the last person. You've been better off if you just give them $1.50 instead of them going down the street for an extra $1 an hour. Efficiency wages kind of are a strategic way around that from the get-go. Efficiency wages are paying people more than what their market value is. Not like astronomically more, but you pay them well. And from that, you get a few things. You reduce worker turnover, you increase worker effort, the work quality is a lot better, and the workers tend to be healthier, both in terms of mental and physical mindset. There's some examples that I usually love to go over in class. Chick-fil-A versus Arby's. I know we always pick on that one. I'm here talking to myself, but I pretty much assume most of you would say Chick-fil-A, okay, over Arby's. And in terms of like their workers, who seems happier? Chick-fil-A by far, okay. You know why? Chick-fil-A pays efficiency wages. Second example is Target versus Walmart. A lot of y'all kind of locked into Walmart, but if you've ever been to a Target, notice a few things. People are friendlier at Target. And I kind of know like all the cashiers at Target now. I definitely know the pharmacists. If you have kids and stuff, you go by the pharmacy all the time. But there's not as much worker turnover. At Walmart, it's like a revolving door. At Walmart, if you ask for help, people just look at you like they want to hurt you. Okay. Target actually pays efficiency wages and Walmart doesn't. Walmart got a lot of heat about making its people work right until a point that they'd have to give them benefits, and then they just underpay and underbenefit them. So Target's just the opposite. They pay better than they have to. They don't have as much worker turnover. I'm not saying everybody there is just as happy as they can be, but they're happier than they are in Walmart. So efficiency wages are a thing. I want you to read about that. And let me just see. No, that's the chapter, man. That's the chapter. Efficiency wages good, and unions mixed bag, mostly bad nowadays. Frictional and structural unemployment, know the difference there. Minimum wage set above market value is going to cause unemployment, and just know a little bit about natural rate of unemployment. It's the unemployment fluctuates around it, and little fluctuations across cyclical unemployment. So appreciate y'all. Keep working. Hopefully you're watching this video, doing the reading and watching the PowerPoint videos and preparing yourself to do as best as possible on homework. Take care.